Very good morning and a good evening to those of you listening. Continuing with our budget week here at USISPF, the countdown to the all important budget on February 1st. I am delighted to be joined by Mr. Mukesh Bhutani. He, of course, is an advisor to the US India Tax Forum and a managing partner at BMR Legal. So, Mukesh, a very good evening to you in India. I hope you're keeping well.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm even more pleased to have this discussion with you. So, getting straight into the meat of the substance, calendar mark for Feb 1st, and corporate India is looking at that date very closely. What are they expecting from this budget on Feb 1st?
I think the budget is expected to roll out reforms in a host of sectors besides the usual sectors that generate employment. The focus is clearly going to be infrastructure and local manufacturing. Insofar as fiscal is concerned, this is just a good time to relook at the tax rates, the differential between the tax rates applicable to the services industries and the manufacturing industry and bring it on par with manufacturing. Certain sectors which have been stressed, such as aviation and tourism and the hotel industry, also is expecting SOPs. And there are many ideas that the government has on the table to be able to address this particular segment of the industry, which has been reeling under pressure because of the pandemic.
Yeah. And thank you for touching on those overarching analysis of, on the manufacturing part. I want to get your views on that. But before I do, to talk around overhaul of digital taxation and India's commitment to the proposed OECD two pillar project has been in the news. And what are, foreign investors looking at, from the budget, particularly along this line of digital taxation? Because this is, of course, is sort of incentivizing foreign investors to kind of come in. What are sort of what foreign corporates will be looking at when their budget announcement comes out on Feb 1st?
Well, we already have one development, which is the understanding with the US Trade Commissioner as to how India will go about levying the equalization levy until the time the OECD led consensus comes into force. That's a significant development with regard to credit of equalization levy paid in India, as well as not expanding the scope of equalization levy, which is already on the higher side. India is deeply committed to OECD inclusive framework. But the challenges insofar as the US process is concerned, and that challenge is not just there for India but for rest of the world. As soon as the US legislative process makes progress, India will stay deeply committed, and on an overall basis, India as a market jurisdiction will tend to gain from the multinational operations in India, particularly with regard to areas of digital taxation.
And India stands to gain from multinational operations is the key takeaway. And on that note, you touched on manufacturing earlier, and to kind of attract foreign investors in manufacturing, particularly in the wake of COVID era supply chain disruption, Make in India has become a very important priority of the government, and the government expanded PLI schemes. Can we expect this budget to encourage investment in manufacturing along these lines?
No doubt it will. There are many ideas again on the table. One is the expansion of the PLI beyond the seven industry. The other is also the unutilized capacity of special economic zones. And one of the proposals being examined is if the process for uh, special economic zones being made given permission for domestic manufacturing is allowed, because there's a lot of unutilized capacity of the SEZs both in the manufacturing and on the services side. So a relaxation in the SEZ law will enable government encourage domestic manufacturing as well as providing domestic services.
Right. And, on a final note, as we kind of look forward to the budget, we've spoken about governments taking, significant steps to improve dispute resolution mechanisms and, sort of reduce litigation, perhaps both direct and indirect taxation. So what, what more should taxpayers expect along these lines or along dispute resolution mechanisms?
I think dispute resolution more is an ongoing reform. We've had a couple of schemes being rolled out. One is the faceless assessment scheme for income tax purposes, and second was relooking at the entire gamut of reassessment proceedings. Both of them have been reformative in the budget of 2020 and 2021. However, the implementation has been patchy. I would reckon that the government is going to focus on administrative measures to streamline the implementation of both the faceless assessment and the reopening scheme. Insofar as indirect taxes is concerned, I think the much awaited would be the functioning of the apex tribunal to deal with indirect tax related disputes, which are primarily on the GST side, because we've had government in the last 2 years cleaning up the past by encouraging taxpayers to come forward and disclose the past taxes.
So thank you so much, Mukesh. Really appreciate it.